Hello everyone, hope you are doing well and welcome to our channel. So last session we were talking about distant healing. So we will carry on to our this session with the previous session's interlinked questions. So Ima, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Tanvir. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this show today. I'm really excited to explore further and to explain to our viewers a little bit more about distance healing and the incredibly powerful tool that it is and very much underrated.
So today's first questions. So what are the challenge a healer may face for distant healing, which he or she doesn't face from in-person healing?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So for those of our audience who don't know, I'm a Reiki master teacher and practitioner for humans and animals. And also I am a Shiatsu student level practitioner. And I use distance healing for both of these modalities. I also have other modalities, but I don't give pregnancy massage via distance healing. So yeah, in terms of challenges, I'd say if there's a client who has busy mind and for whom hands-on treatments are more effective because they give them a focus to work with during the treatment, that can be a bit of that could be a bit of a hindrance, really. I think I would need to advise them to do some breathing exercises. I would maybe share a meditation, a kind of a relaxing guided meditation for them to keep their brain occupied with and to help open their energy during the treatment. I guess another thing that can be an issue is the fact that during distance treatments, the information you get can be a lot more overwhelming. Without the kind of physical person there, which does take up some of your awareness and your kind of attention and focus during the treatment, there's a lot going on with the energy. So making notes afterwards can be challenging. It can also be quite tiring because there is such a lot happening that you're very much deeply connected to. So you're working on all kinds of levels at once, and it's more like a dance than a walk. You know, it's very, very strongly in the flow, and sharing kind of notes and comments and things afterwards can be a bit difficult because you have to be very present throughout the whole thing. You have to stay present. You have to let go of what's just happened and be with what is at every moment in a distance treatment. So that means that your memory afterwards can be a bit, you have to come properly down. Grounding is really important. And you have to make sure that you give yourself enough time to kind of get all your notes down and be kind to yourself about what pops into your mind later. It's like, oh, why didn't I mention that? I'd forgotten that. How could I have forgotten that? It's really important. So yeah, those sorts of things can be a bit challenging. Also, the fact that our clients can sometimes have subconscious blockers to distance treatments. So that can affect us in two different ways. Firstly, they may not be as present with what's happening in the treatment if they do decide to go for a treatment. And that could potentially have an impact for them. Or in terms of the fact that they might not book on for a treatment. They might just not engage with that at all. And I do have plenty of clients who would benefit and for whom distance treatments would be very, very effective, but they would rather come in for a treatment and have a face-to-face treatment. And that's absolutely fine as well. That's also part of our need as a human being, that kind of face-to-face contact. So for some people and at certain times in their lives, they'll maybe want face-to-face rather than distance. So it can be a bit of a limitation on what the benefits could be, but that is entirely up to the person receiving, really. That's all I can think of at the moment, Tanvir. How about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So you are absolutely right. The thing is, sometimes what we face that client is saying that, okay, I need healing or I need to resolve that type of things, but from their inside, they are not quite open about healing or something like that, because
Yeah.
there are two things we need to consider: a conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And there is
Exactly.
another mind, is the unconscious mind or superconscious mind. So somehow if one of those are not ready to receive any kind of healing, it might be difficult for us to send any kind of healing to them. So I have a related question. So
Mm.
probably you already have answered that, but for our audience, it might be helpful. Can a practitioner send healing to anyone, or from the receiver's end, that particular person need to know that someone is sending me healing?
So, yeah, we're on to ethics now, aren't we, really? In a way, ethics and practicalities. So, I would not send a treatment to somebody unless either they'd asked for a treatment, or in the case of an animal, for example, I might, well, with animals, I make my connection and I ask them if I can connect. I introduce myself, and if they already know me, then we have kind of an energetic interaction and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of, you have to get their permission. If you can't get their kind of vocal worded permission, for example, if there's somebody who's in a coma, then they wouldn't be able to give permission. But there are ways that you need to work around that. And I would bring in my, as I say, my kind of animal Reiki and my CNHC training around that. So it would be a case of the person who is responsible for their welfare, their well-being. I would talk to them. I would get their permission. I would also talk to the person themselves, even if they can't physically tell me that they're okay with it. I would explain what I'd like to do. I would show them what Reiki is. I would connect to it, and I would kind of beam some to them. And I would ask my guides to make me aware of their intention to receive. I would also be able to pick up energetically whether they wanted to receive or not. So I would do that all in kind of the etheric. But number one consideration is explaining to the person what it is and what's going to happen, so that they know, even if it's only their subconscious mind that can hear, whilst their conscious mind isn't present, and the person who is in charge of looking after them and their well-being, so doctors, loved one who takes decisions on their behalf and things like that. The same is true for people who have learning difficulties, and for children as well. So you always get whatever form of permission you're able to. You always explain in whatever terms the person can understand, and you always get permission from the legal, that the person with legal responsibility and duty of care for that person. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Ima. So it was kind of a question of ethics, and there is another interlinked questions about ethics that some of our audience may think that this kind of healer can read minds and such type of things. So if he or she is performing, distant healing, so are they going to explore our mind, or know what I don't want to expose to those informations? So can you please say something on that?
Yeah. No, the answer to that is no. We pick up on whatever information the person is willing for us to have, and that can come through in an energetic form. That can come through in terms of having an impression or a certain sensation. These pieces of information are just for us to, they're either something that's there in the experience of the person at the time that they're receiving it. So, for example, if somebody is running on a treadmill and they're exercising whilst they're receiving a treatment, it's not ideal, I'll be honest, but I might feel like my heart rate getting quite elevated. I might become really aware of my breath. I would feel in my body something that was very, very present in the experience of the person receiving the treatment, usually. Certainly when it's animals as well, that's definitely the case. In terms of ideas and thoughts and things like that, sometimes I don't get information that's private for the person. I might get a certain emotion or something that either helps me in my treatment of them, or that I can tell them I experienced this. I don't know if that means anything to you. But that is all. I don't read minds. It's not about letting somebody into your house and letting them, that if you look at your mind or your consciousness as a house, you're not giving somebody free rein. They are there to do one thing, and that's to give you healing. If your energy shares something with them, it's not going to be something that you wouldn't want them to know. And frankly, if there is something that you don't want them to know that is pertinent to your healing, then your energy is going to be blocking them from giving that kind of depth of effective treatment anyway. So it all kind of works itself out. And no, somebody would not try to get personal details or private information during a treatment. And I don't believe they would be able to, certainly not if they were using Reiki, because Reiki only ever works for the greatest and highest good. Reiki is light. Reiki can't be used bad.
Right. Thanks, Emma. So this question is about how to be prepared, one, to receive Reiki when he or she is in a distant place.
So having that conversation with the healer to begin with is really important. That's going to set the tone. That's going to make it feel to your subconscious and to your energy like that it's actually a session. You're there with the person. You feel their energy on whatever level. You set your intention for the treatment as well. And maybe the healer will give you some guidance for breath work you can do, or where you can set your focus, something to help get you into that space of relaxation and openness energetically. And know that you are safe in that energetic space as well, because you won't be on your own. Your energy will be being protected, and the space will be being held by your healer. They will be there with you on an energetic level. So don't worry about that. And you just find yourself somewhere quiet, comfortable, warm, where you're not going to be interrupted. And you can make yourself as comfortable in the ways that work for you. So pillows or blankets are good. You can use essential oils or incense, as long as you make sure that you light it safely and it's not going to potentially cause a fire or damage or hurt anybody. Turn your phone on to silent because that can be a thing for people. No distractions, okay? And you can always pop some nice, soothing, relaxing music on. Just lie down, notice your breath, relax, let it happen. You'll notice whatever you need to during the treatment. There's no right or wrong way. Just relax as much as you can. Try not to worry if your thoughts stay quite busy. Just let them flow and bring your awareness to your breath. And if you feel like falling asleep, just fall asleep. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and have some water there as well, so you can just have a drink of water afterwards. If you have something to write with and to write on, like a journal, you can take some notes afterwards of anything that you experienced. And that can be useful because you can forget quite quickly after Reiki what what happened, or after healing, what happened. And then, after time you've decided with your healer, you'll have a catch up and exchange feedback and just check in. So it's very much like a face-to-face treatment, except you're setting up the treatment space. You're making sure you don't get disturbed, and you make it suit you. So it's really comfortable, and it's tailored to your needs and to what works for you, what makes it feel like a sacred health space for you, what makes it feel like that special you time for you.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. So does a person need to know, I mean, if he or she feels like I haven't felt anything after the session, so does that mean that healing doesn't work, or what he or she should expect after the session if he or she doesn't feel anything?
Yeah, good question, Tanvir. Thank you. So not feeling anything during the session, whether it's face-to-face or distance, Reiki or other healing, is really, really perfectly normal. It doesn't mean the session hasn't worked. It just means that the healing has happened, but you didn't need to be conscious of what was happening. And you should still take all the aftercare advice, drink lots of water, give yourself lots of rest, get ready for any emotions or anything that's been worked on to come to the surface. So you might find you get a bit of an emotional detox, maybe some so if you've ever had an experience that you've kind of not dealt with, you might find that little memories or things to do with that might come to the surface, but it will be in a really non-triggering, safe way, because Reiki makes it safe for us to release things. So you might find that you get cross more. You might find that you have a lot of anger coming to the surface. Try and release that if that happens in a really safe way, and don't direct it at others. Just notice it. Do some meditation, some breath work. Maybe find a pillow and use it like a punching bag or something. But Reiki will help us to let go of what we need to let go of. So just be ready for that to happen over the few days after your treatment. Take it easy, as I've said. Don't run any marathons or anything like that. And just be present as much as you can with your experience. Note down any changes in how you feel, in your appetite, on a physical level. And just know that it's worked, and then have that conversation with your therapist, because what they tell you might shed a bit more light and give you areas to look for in the coming days.
You're absolutely right. So from my experience, what I have seen, that people who are sensitive to energies or doing regular meditation, they can sense the changes, in an intense way. But for other people who are not that much sensitive about the energies or not practicing meditation regularly, so there is a high possibility that they might not feel anything right away after the session. But what I have seen, that after certain days, they started to feel some kind of changes, what they came for. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Tanvir. That's absolutely right. And something else I would add to that is, so sometimes if we have something that's buried and blocked, and our subconscious mind has blocked it for a very good reason, because it's very difficult to face, or it's very, very painful or unpleasant. Sometimes your Reiki healer or your healer, your distance healer or your face-to-face healer will feel those things for you. They will interact with that, and they will hold space, and they will let it be. So that's not always something that the person who goes in for the treatment feels themselves. So you might feel some deep shifting afterwards, and that because that's had a bit of room to come to the surface. Sorry, Tanvir, you were going to say.
Yeah, so I was trying to say that a person, when he or she receives any kind of energy healing, it's it's a kind of healing, right? So like a medications, so doctor can prescribe a medication for particular type of issues or health issues, and he or she may get well after taking this medication. But if that person don't look after herself or himself, then they will get back to the same position, back to the zero. So
Yeah,
about the
that's true.
yeah, and similar to the energy healing as well. So after a certain session, if we don't change ourselves, so we will get back to zero again. So it doesn't matter whether it's a energy healing or any kind of healing like medication. So we need to adapt the change. We need to change ourselves, and then we will get the full benefit of energy healing, I believe. Do you have any thought on that?
Absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right, Tanvir. And I would say sometimes there are things that we need to do. Sometimes, though, there are very traumatic experiences in the past that we've not been able to look at and just become embedded in the body. And sometimes for people in that situation, they're not able to access those things themselves. And maybe they need to start the healing process, but they're not ready to fully go into that. Everybody's at a different place. Most people know that they need to do healing or receive healing before they're ready to take ownership for their healing journey themselves. And sometimes that first session, I think our awareness of what healing needs to happen in our own bodies, in our own experience, does grow, as you say, that the more we practice. Sometimes people can be healers themselves and they can have these things that they're carrying with them. And it's not through any fault of their own, it's because we're human beings. And there can be things carried in the body that a healer can work with, and that our bodies will then subconsciously and energetically work to sort of, what's the word? Assimilate and shift and heal and incorporate into our being. So it's not just sectioned off and causing problems, it's being processed. But things can't always be processed in a conscious way, because it might be too much, but the healing still needs to happen. So that's kind of what I was talking about there. Sometimes there are deep layers of emotion, and there can be a lot of judgment around having certain emotions and about letting ourselves process them. And a healer can really help us hold space and witness what needs to be witnessed. And then little by little, as that thing starts to heal, it becomes less and less painful, and it becomes safer and safer for the person to start to interact with that unhealed emotion or whatever it is. And they can then naturally start to work with that. So I guess coming right back to the original question, sometimes very, very deep healing, it will feel the person won't necessarily be conscious of the stuff that's going on a really deep level, but over time they will start to incorporate it, and it will be gentle, and it will be healthy, and it will be in the right way for them. And I hope that helps, and I hope that, does that resonate with you as well, Tanvir, with your experiences?
Yeah, so absolutely. So the thing is, there are something when, I mean, as you have told, there are some deep emotional issues there. If that's not be escaped first, then it's really difficult to go with the healing. And sometimes I would like to say there are some karmic bonding as well. So it's a little bit different topic, but that's also come along with it. So if our karma is so heavy, sometime, we need to go through the process of suffering. So it's like you are cleaning up your karma. So,
I
so
have an interesting kind of I kind of flip flop with the idea of people need to suffer. I feel like actually suffering happens and paying for things through suffering. I think suffering comes from, it's what we do to ourselves. I don't think it's about balancing the scales of what's right. And I think our healing can be about forgiving ourselves and accepting ourselves rather than having to go through a certain amount of suffering to pay the price for things. That's my view anyway.
Yeah. So probably the suffering is not the right thing or right word. It's like, cleaning off your debt, which you have to carry. It's something like that. Right.
I think
so,
I think it's different perspectives on the same thing.
Yeah.
Right, really.
Right.
I look at it as we're all on a journey, and ultimately, ideally, it's upwards evolution.
Right.
But sometimes people kind of stay in the same holding pattern for a while, and they have a bit of work to do if they want to break free of that unhappy pattern. So they've got a bit of distance to make up sometimes, I think. Maybe that would be how I'd look at it anyway. Right. I'm not an expert in karma, so I don't know. I'm just a healer.
Yeah. So today's last question is, can someone perform remote healing, or he or she needs to be approved by some authorities, or how can a client can find a legit healer who can heal remotely?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I would say start at the top and work down. So I would, this is what I did when I was looking for a Reiki master teacher initially, and then later on, more effectively, I was able to find a very much more legitimate person. So in the UK, if you're in the UK, then your best bet is to go to, there's the UK Reiki Council, you see, and they are the overseeing body for lots of different professional Reiki organisations. All of their member organisations make up the Reiki Council. So the Reiki Council set professional standards. They work with the CNHC, which is the government's regulator for complementary therapies. I believe there are other ones as well, but the CNHC is the one I definitely know is, they are the stamp of approval. They work with all of the different modalities, as far as I'm aware, with many, many different modalities. And they have a really rigorous process in place for healers. And that goes for, that approach goes for distance as well as face-to-face healing. So I would say if you're in the UK, go to the CNHC, find... and people who are registered with the CNHC, you can find them on, they have a search facility. So look for your modality or look for people in your local area and then visit their website, and you can be sure that you're getting a legitimate, accredited and registered practitioner then. Something else you can do is look at check out whether there's a regulator in your country. If you're not in the United Kingdom, the UK Reiki Federation does have members in different countries as well. So the CNHC would not be your local kind of regulator there, but you could find an accredited Reiki practitioner who's local to you, if any are registered with the UK Reiki Federation, because, as I say, they've got international members. And if you want to be a member of that organisation, you have to meet certain criteria, and they check out your lineage and they make sure you've got insurance, and you have to do continuous professional development and all kinds of things like that. So start at, if you're like me, then start at government level or healthcare provider, national healthcare provider level. Check out the therapy modality in question on their website, find any links that they have, and just work from there, because you're starting with the legitimate organisation, the very obviously legitimate organisation, and working back from there. I hope that helps.
Yes, thanks, Ima. So I'd like to let our audience know Rima is a Reiki master. So if you guys are having any kind of issues, in the description you may found the information of Ima. You can contact Ima as well.
Yeah. I'm also CNHC registered.
Yeah, there are lots of certificate behind you. Yeah. So thanks, Ima,
Thank you, Toby.
for conducting today's session. So in our next session, we will do a practical remote healing
Looking
process,
forward to it.
how to proceed with that. So please stay
Yeah.
tuned with us. So Ima, would you like to say some closing statement or?
Yeah, I'm just really excited for the experiment. We're going to have 2 different modalities and see how they are different. And we're going to do that kind of in real time, and we're going to talk about what they're like. So yeah, do join us for the next episode. It's going to be a belter.
Right. So stay tuned with us. Till then, bye.
Bye.